Hello and welcome to ClapperCast. I'm your host as always, Carson Timar, and today I'm joined by the good old Nicolò Grasso as we kick off our Road to Halloween series with a review for the Conjuring Last Rites. This is the end of the Warren story, and the Conjuring universe has been quite meaningful both to myself and Nick. We are big fans of this franchise, and we were definitely nervous heading into this final entry, and today we will discuss if it stuck the landing or if this is ultimately a disappointment. After we were both really impressed by The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. I hope that we like this, but we will definitely get in to our pros and cons. Spoiler alert, mostly cons, but we will see how it goes. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast and supporting. Now let's get to our review of The Conjuring Last Rites. Okay, Nick, thank you so much for braving the demons, the scares, the horrors, to talk about The Conjuring Last Rites, the final film with the Warrens. We're saying goodbye to these characters over a decade of building this franchise, of building these characters. To be clear, and we'll get there, not necessarily the end of the entire Conjuring expanded universe, but the end of this main storyline. Same director as Conjuring the Devil Made Me Do It. This is a series I recently, and I feel like I've talked about it on a couple different rapid reviews on various episodes. I took my time over last month. I rewatched all the original Conjuring films in the actual main franchise and just had a joy revisiting. I really, really love this franchise, I will say, which makes me have a lot of emotions getting into the film we're talking about today. I'll turn it over to you first, because I want to know, first off, what is your history with the Conjuring universe? Do you love this universe? Has this been connected to you? I know you've shared maybe a couple anecdotes specifically about the first film, but where does this place for you in your heart as far as horror franchises? And then from there, what were your thoughts on the final entry here today?
I do have a very long history with the Conjuring franchise. I was thinking about it the other day after I left the cinema. I think this is the only, or at least the longest for sure, movie franchise that I've literally seen every movie of in the cinema as they were coming out. Conjuring 1 was only my second R-rated horror film, or just general horror film ever in the cinema. The first one was the Evil Dead remake in 2014. Um, and it was foundational for me. It was at the time when horror still felt dangerous. It felt edgy. You know, I grew up I grew up Christian, raised Catholic. So all of those things, like you would hear people talk about, like, oh, you don't watch Friedkin's The Exorcist because that's going to conjure something in your home. It's going to invite the devil in your life, which is bullshit and absolute nonsense. But so there's always been some of that lingering in the back of my head watching these films. The first one I thought was excellent. I actually watched it, I want to say, a few weeks before I watched The Exorcist, because I was building up to that. And this really pushed me over the edge to actually watch it. The second one came when I was finishing high school. I had just done my last exams. I went with my best friend to the cinema and we just had a blast with it. I love the second one. It's one of my favorite horror films. In terms of just pure entertainment, character writing, there's just so much that's just fun. Like, James Wan gets it. And the third one, like, probably newer listeners, of course, don't know, but you and I talked about it on this podcast. We got a little bit emotional back in 2021. It was my first movie back in the cinema, maybe one of yours as well, during the COVID pandemic. So I was like, damn, like, it was great going back to the movies to see Ed and Lorraine one last time. That's what we thought 4 years ago. And then they announced this movie, same director, Michael Chavez, Curse of La Llorona. None 2 I do like. We'll talk about that in a bit. I have opinions there. But this film, I don't know, actually, if you want, I can save it and you can go with your history if you want of the series. Or should I go?
I mean, I can go quickly. I just don't because I don't have as deep of a poetic history with this as you do. I love these films. I really think, especially this main Conjuring franchise, the first one I think is genuinely the best haunted house film ever created. It's just James Wan, like, stunting with his ability. Conjuring 2, scariest film I've ever seen. I really, really am bad with jump scares. Like, it's just that's the one thing about me. It's a struggle for me. And that film, with how it builds tension and how it builds its scares and how it builds iconography cinematography. It is almost reminiscent of when I went and saw Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair, where it's like you see like, oh, he's just doing every single action and to the best of its ability, and is just like creating a resume here to show you what action can be. Conjuring 2 is just James 1 showing you what horror can be. It is like the definitive horror film in that sense that I think is so well done. And as you mentioned, great emotions, great character, great heart. Devil Made Me Do It, I really think it's so underrated. It loses the one iconography. Don't get me wrong. We'll talk about Chavez as a director. It loses the one style. It loses the directing. It has some more of the formula, especially for jump scares, but really is the one that hits the nail on the head as far as the emotion of these characters and ends it just, I think, in such a beautiful way where you really just, and I know like, yes, these are real people. We will get there that are flawed and have plenty of issues. But for this on-screen couple, this romanticized version, the Greatest Showman version of these two, it is just a beautiful film that goes back to love. And in a world of demons and darkness and murder and death and blood, to come together and love, I think it's like this gorgeous statement. And I think that was my biggest concern here. Was how do you go? You're like really gambling because number 3 ends in this way that's like, I don't need this anymore. It's a great goodbye to this couple that they get to live on in their love. How terrifying to then be like, we need another feature that's actually going to close it and somehow theoretically close it better than that third film. That's what I was really nervous about. So I don't necessarily have like this huge history with the franchise, but I do love it. It does definitely have a place in my heart. Also, I'll hit it back to you. Did you feel satisfied with the last rites as a conclusion?
No. Well, okay, no, it's more nuanced than that. As a conclusion, I think I'll rephrase this. I don't like this movie. Just plain and simple. I don't think this is a good movie. I think this is a bad movie. People who follow this podcast and hear me talk about movies know this is a big statement. I very rarely this negative on a film. I was disappointed, to say the least. I was upset watching this film. It's one of those movies that gets progressively worse the more it goes on, the more you realize it's actually going to squander any potential present in it. But it does have one good thing, and it is, I think, the ending, like the actual final moment, which is pure like Avengers Endgame. Everyone's happy and like, oh my god, it's nostalgia. Remember these people type of celebration. I'll keep it light on spoilers. Maybe we can talk about them later towards the end of the episode. But other than that, everything else made me say, why? And they did realize one thing actually. The third one did make money, like 200 million dollars in 2021. That's a lot of money during COVID. It came out
With the same day release on HBO Max, yeah.
crazy, crazy. So I was like, okay, it makes sense that they want to milk this cow one more time. I'm happy that Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson came back again for this. They are the heart and soul of the series. But in this film, they really have very little to do. And on paper, this is not a bad idea of a movie. You go into their last case. No, but like actually this time, okay? Remember the last case from the first movie? No, this is the actual last case. Okay? Slight retcon there. They tie it in with the daughter because the daughter is grown older. She's also this visionary, obsessed with like haunted by demons and visions, and she's trying to hide this away from herself. When she was a kid, she had this horrible, like she was born dead basically and was revived after 1 minute. Like there's this whole prologue to the film that had me worried. We'll talk about that when we talk about the future of the series. um but there is something here that made me think, why is this my least favorite Michael Chavez Conjuring film? I mean, Curse of La Llorona, just I don't really want to count it into the universe. Like it's part of it, but like who cares? But like, why does this feel like such a step back from Conjuring 3? And I just bluntly, I think this feels cynical. This feels cynically made. It feels like it's made exclusively for money. There is no good story to tell. I don't really like no hard like Mia Tomlinson, who plays the daughter, Judy Warren. She did nothing for me. She was very forgettable. Especially like this character has been changed as many times as Bobby has been changed in the fucking Mad Men series. Like they've had like 5 actresses for Judy over the years. Like oh my god, like pick one, choose one, and stay with it. Um, and she is together with Ben Hardy, who just you put in a movie. Like I'm never gonna believe this is 1986 guy. Looks like he has that iPhone face. You know, you put him against Patrick Wilson. It's just like on a whole different league of acting. Um, but I don't know. I'm curious to know how you felt, Carson, about this film because there's a lot to talk about. But I'm just curious about your opening
I
impressions.
loved it. Oh my god, no, I
It's the
didn't.
best of the
It's
series.
the best one, best horror movie I've ever seen. No, I really did not expect in all, and I've talked about this before when we talked about this episode coming up. I had very low expectations for the film. I
Yeah,
never expected it to just be like nothing, though. In the way that this film is nothing, there is no heart. There is no soul. There's no character. You follow a lot of the Conjuring kind of formula at this point, where you have this family, they're getting tortured in their house. Eventually, the narratives path or cross paths. That family has nothing here. There's no. Every family previous to them have had dynamics, have had characters, have had emotions. You know, maybe it's a mother trying to protect her kids. That's very common in this. There's always been something, you know. There's been a kid in number three. I think the kid is really good in number three. We'll get there with the ending for this one. But you know, there's always something that like narratively pulls you in and has an emotional reaction. Here they are just like the most basic and bland, like cardboard cutouts of characters of a family being haunted. I didn't expect, you know, you hype this up as it's their last case. It's so crazy. It's so cool. Number one, the case itself is not interesting. Michael
but the
Chavez,
mirror, Carson, the mirror is
the
haunted.
mirror. Oh my God. It was crazy. Uh, Michael Chavez, I think the biggest change between him and James Wan is iconography. James Wan knows, and I mean, you've seen it throughout his career, this is not a hot take, knows how to create iconography to the point where you look at Conjuring 2, and not only was the iconography so strong, it created multiple spin-offs, but to this day, James Wan is on the red carpet for Last Rites being like, yeah, people still want the Crooked Man. Like, you can say and understand, like, I
I
have,
want the
like,
Crooked
a
Man.
relationship to these demons and to these characters that are memorable to this day, almost a decade after it released. It's been 3 days, and I cannot tell you any of the ghosts in this one. It's similar to The Devil Made Me Do It. He just makes these super, super generic hauntings that just have nothing to draw you in. Um, this one does play around with Annabelle quite a bit. Annabelle, like, is back. The year
Again, Carson. It's like the fifth time.
why in
Again.
2025 is Megan and Annabelle both back, but Chucky's gone? That's the real, you know, we've lost about these dolls. I will say that was not only not inspired. We've seen it before. I think this is easily the worst looking Conjuring film, I would say, of the extended universe. There is some effects here. I don't necessarily want to spoil everything. There are some effects that I laughed out loud with, specifically one with Annabelle. That was one of the
Yes,
worst things I've ever seen in the cinema, maybe.
I was like, I was covering my mouth to stop myself from laughing in a cinema of people scared. I was like, how is this
Yeah.
real? I felt like I was in a nightmare, but not in a good way. It was one of those nightmares like, no, no, this is so
Yeah.
uninspired. This is so stupid.
It's also just so badly done. Like the visual effects of the scene, and if you've seen it, you know exactly what we're
You
talking
know what
about.
you're talking about.
It's
We don't even need
it
a
looks
spoiler.
horrible. It looks genuinely terrible. So I was just really amazed, and I have no idea why this is so much worse. Because again, Chavez, I don't like Curse La Llorona. You said Nun 2 is great. I haven't seen the Nun films. That's my one blind spot in this universe. And I would love to hear why you like Nun 2 and
Mhm.
more about that film. But again, The Devil Made Me Do It had this strong emotional heart, so I thought at least they would nail that, and it just feels like a ghost of what was in number 3. You have him with his heart condition, but it's never drawn out to the point like number 3 where it has this emotional pull of the pills and she has to find them. Like, it's just there. I don't know. This movie felt so bland to me. And I think that's the saddest part, is seeing this franchise go out on a note that is so instantly forgettable. But I would love to hear more about the Nun 2. Like, does Nun 2 give any answers maybe on why this went down this pathway?
Probably, I have a theory that's coming up as we're talking actually here, but I'll save it for a second. None 2, I did watch in similar conditions. It was opening weekend at my multiplex. I was the oldest person in the crowd, which made it kind of fun. I was in the first row, so many teenagers behind me filling up the screening. The Nun 2 was just fun. It's not a great film, but you can sense him having fun. And I think, just generally speaking, 1986 Pennsylvania, is that the place where it says, like, something like that? Not super interesting. 1960s, 1950s Romania, Paris, whatever, like European town Nantu was set in. It's like, okay, this is more fun. This is like the gothic atmosphere. You have the nun, like, again, the iconography borrowed from James Wan, but he's making something interesting with it. There's a couple of scenes, and you're watching it in the same way. And I think this goes, honestly, for the entire series as a whole. As much as we love the first two entries, but even them to a lesser extent, they are just really, really fun rides, like carnival rides. You strap in, you go on the ride, scare here, laugh there, ho ho ho. You finish, it's like, oh, this was fun, and you just go on with your life, which is fine. None 2 embodies that perfectly. That is completely missing from Last Rites. And I have a theory, if I may. I don't know if it was his choice. I know James Wan was heavily involved in the behind the scenes pre production because it's his story. There's some things with him as well in the film. This feels like, okay, we need to finish the franchise. We need to go back to our roots. And that means copying almost one to one the original in a way that just doesn't work because Michael Chavez is not James Wan. The third one is not my favorite of the series, but it is very fun. And the moment when you have the killing, where the guy, the possession, and this is the killing, and the music is slowing down, they're lighting the silhouette. It's like, oh my god, that's a cool scene. You're watching it, it's creepy, it's effective, it's cinematic. I want to say there's not a single moment like that in here. Maybe a Hall of Mirror effect as Judy is getting dressed up in a bright gown. Maybe that comes close to it. But again, it looks so cheap. It looks like a Netflix original. They wanted to remake the original. They wanted to go back to basics in a way that just is not needed. And it doesn't work because there's no emotional core here. You said it perfectly as well. The family here is non existent. They recreate, it's not iconic, but like the opening shot of the family being introduced, like the time of the season by the zombies is playing in the background. The girl is, I haven't seen this movie in like 7 years, Carson. I still remember time of the season, the camera, the girl walking down the sofa, every member of the family is being introduced. It's like five people, six people tops. They all feel unique. They all have actors that you kind of already seen in things as well. So already you can attach yourselves to them a little bit more. Here, it's like 8 people in this family. None of them have a personality of outside of the skeptic father. And even then, that's instantly abandoned because, oh gosh, the moment we establish he's a skeptic, he's not skeptic anymore. Done. It's bafflingly shallow. And what's left to attach yourself to is the Warrens. And there we're getting like Bad Boys 2 level of father daughter relationship, you know? Which is more fun in the Bad Boys movies. It's cute because it's them doing it here, but if it weren't Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga doing the teasing and whatnot, this would not work at all.
No, it's like seeing a family member in like a bad play, where it's like you're gonna be like, oh, I like them, but like no, the content is not good. It's definitely the worst. I will go out on a limb and say what I think they should have done here. I don't know your thoughts on the film, but the last Insidious movie, Patrick Wilson stepped up as director. I cannot imagine a better road for this to take narratively with what this is going for and how much he genuinely cares about The Conjuring. You ever hear him talk about this, and he fucking loves The Conjuring.
Yeah.
If he directed this, and no offense, Chavez, and you just made that fully emotional, this is fully the final send off with someone who truly loves, who's been there since day one. I think that would have been poetry. I think that would have been this beautiful final statement for this series and for these characters. They didn't go that route, so that's sad. But and granted, Insidious, I think the Red Door, or Last Door, whatever it was called, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I assume you enjoyed it.
I was a
Um,
fan. It's one of my favorites of the series, actually.
Right. For a series, I genuinely don't care that much about Insidious. That one still like got me in the emotions even at times because it just felt like, oh, there is real heart behind this. I agree. I think that's the biggest thing that's missing here is both heart and iconography. I mean, the mirror is just so boring. It really is. And I get going back to basics, but again, like he isn't one. When you watch that first film, not only is just the iconography strong, but there's so much with tension and you in this house and walking around and nothing happens and you just keep waiting for something to happen and then you'll get a big burst. Here it's just like lifeless, it's meaningless. You just get bursts all the time. Like I think the jump scare, even though a lot of them use the same formula as James 1 and what he established within this franchise, are just not effective in the slightest. I agree, it's not fun. Conjuring 3, I had this really weird, I don't know if you picked up on this, where if you watch Conjuring 3, specifically the final the final action sequence, I guess, it is just a haunted house. I've never seen a film so like you could just one for one put this into a haunted house and have an amazing experience where you just get like room after room of like a different gimmick and it just is a haunted house. And I was like, that is so cool and that is so effective for like bringing you into it and having fun like you're at a haunted house. Here it's just nothing. I wasn't scared by this film really at all. I mean, I think a lot of the jump scares like very telegraphed. You can tell when they're coming. But even just like I don't know. I think for a series that's so built on tension and so built on that emotion, it's really frustrating to see one just have like no tension to it.
There isn't really the feeling of threat for the majority of the film, despite telling you that you should feel threatened, which is bizarre. Like I don't know. They break the mirror, and one of the girls vomits blood. That's the only moment I was shocked because I was thinking like these movies don't go for blood. They don't go for violence and that type of thing. That felt a bit gratuitous. Um, but there is something magical in the way that James Wan crafts a jump scare. Even and actually, I watched Insidious. I want to say a year before I watched Conjuring. Like I went into Conjuring saying, "Oh, it's the guy who made Insidious," and that was also very much important for me. And it scared the bejesus out of me. Genuine, like to this day, I don't know why the ending of Insidious still gets to me. The last time I watched it, again, it gave me nightmares. There's something about James Wan where he lets the it's something that anyone who's into editing filmmaking, they should break down almost frame by frame how James Wan creates a jump scare. And you take, for instance, Bathsheba on the closet, the introduction of Bathsheba. Wide shot, camera tilts up, Bathsheba is there. You see but it's like cuts away very quickly. You see the reaction of the children. They see something scary. What's scary? Cut back, Bathsheba, no sound, but it gives you enough time for you as the audience to actually notice what they were afraid of. And the moment you think, oh shit, what is that? Boom, camera zooms in, jumps going, the noise is coming, and you're freaked the fuck out. And the kids start screaming. You're like, what's going on? That's a good jump scare. In this film, it's, oh, children, don't play in the pantry room with the telephone cord. And you're like, oh, there's going to be a moment where the pantry room goes dark and she's going to wait and she's going to go and there's nothing there. And that's scary because there's nothing there. And it goes exactly like that. And it's so boring. It's so boring. There's not a single jump scare that doesn't follow that formula. The only one that was kind of effective early on, it was like an anti jump scare, alternative jump scare, is when the mother is in the basement and she sees a shadowy figure and she's just like holding on that and there's silence and nothing and you see the shadowy figure and then she turns on the light and the figure turns into a painting of John Wayne. That gave me a chuckle, but I felt it was intentional chuckle. It was one of the very few moments of emotion in this. But even the rules, I'm sorry if I'm rambling a bit, this movie really got to me. We both love the first two movies. One thing they do really, really well is establish rules. The ghost attaches to the person, like does this, does that, yada yada. Okay, great, makes sense. You cannot leave the house, you can't do this, you can't do that. In this movie, there's no rules. It's like there's one thing that happens with the priest, the like long time priest of this family, where I was like, why is this happening? Like, how is this happening? Who is doing this? And I don't even know if it's a spoiler. I put it into my review on Letterboxd as well because I was thinking it's not really a spoiler. I think people should know there is no big ghost reveal in this film. Like there is never a moment where you see fucking Beelzebub with the horns and shit. There's none of that. We're like, oh my god, that was the mastermind behind everything in the Warren's life. He's like, no, 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 no. There's nothing there. You don't even get that build up of like a new creature, a new anything to make this more interesting. Instead, it's just like evil that you don't see. I mean, we could get into spoilers for the ending, into what the actual evil is, but come on. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. I think even like it's really interesting to me seeing the design evolution from one between one and two, where like one is more. I mean, it's really solid work, but it is more like grounded designs of like these dead people, and then he evolves it to go more fantastical in the second one. Granted, again, there's like one clear fantastical element here, but just every ghost you see, every single apparition is just like someone who's like had makeup on to make them look dirty and they're just swinging an axe. Like it's just that over and over again, and it's so boring. Look at the nun, look at the crooked man. Again, not to like repeat my words, but like that is genuinely something memorable that you sit there and you're like, wow, I will remember this. This had a reaction. And also when you've not seen a design like that, it is fucking scary. This is just so generic in every single way. It's shocking. It is shocking to me how bad it is. Taking this in a bit of a different direction, I do quickly want to mention, because this is probably, I mean, we've always stood the Warrens in this series. It's never been like we're going to tackle really these people in real life. I think this is probably the deepest it goes as far as like, no, the real life Warrens, we love them. We love the family. We love Judy. We love, granted, she isn't still around to be in the film, Lorraine, but like Judy's in the film. The real life Judy is in a cameo. So like, how did that wrestle with you? Because I've seen a lot of people bring that up, and obviously this is something with like, again, I mentioned it kind of jokingly, but Greatest Showman, The Conjuring, where you have these kind of controversial figures. Granted, they're not as bad as P.T. Barnum. Let's not try to act like these are the worst people in the
There's
world.
levels of
These guys just kind of seemingly, I believe, lied about ghost stories and made money off of them, and he cheated on his wife. So like that's kind of where we're at with these people. But I would love to know, like, did that at all bother you? How did you feel when you come to this franchise and this film, separating or not separating the real life Warrens from the characters that we see in the film?
It felt icky because it goes into them, like you were saying, in a way that they didn't really before. And also, there is such a thing as just changing through time, and that's probably the saddest thing about this movie. It made me realize how much I have changed as a person, as a film goer, and like even justifying some of those things. Like, yes, like controversial figures in general. Can you justify the art, the artist, true story, fake story? What, like all those conversations. I've had many of them over the years. And back when the first Conjuring came out, the only thing was like, maybe they were cooks. They were just lying about those things. She was still around. She was talking like she was doing promotion for the films. Or for me, I was very indebted to her. And I came very close to actually buying the Demonologist book that they wrote, Ed Warren especially wrote, which could probably be a fun read, to be honest. But I remember when the second movie came out, those things still were being talked about. Then in 2017, like more things came to the surface, and there is that case that you mentioned about like the underage girl. Originally, she was underage, she was living in their house, and she was having relationships with Ed Warren, and they were together basically for decades. And Lorraine knew, like, there's no way she was in on it, honestly. Which is, again, it's like going to make me change how I feel about the movies, especially the first ones. Not really, but in this film, they go above and beyond to paint them as saints, and then having closing text being like, yeah, this is still a bit controversial, but it's got to love them. We love the Warrens; they're good people, bringing the light and the shadow. which is something that I find fascinating about this series as a whole and just Christian horror. It is often very much on the verge of feeling like conservative propaganda. This is the first time watching this series where I felt that propaganda, which is not intentional, of course. Like they're not setting out to do anything like that. But I was just like separating myself, especially in today's landscape, socially and politically, thinking, okay, we're watching a movie where a middle to low class white family desperately needs help, and they get a middle to upper class white family come and teach them the importance of a good family that needs to stick together through the power of Jesus and God. And at the end, they're all so happy, and they have so many little cute white children in their wonderful patriarchal heteronormative Christian family. And got to the end, I was like, this feels slightly icky. Like, in a way that it never really did with the other movies. And I'm sure that if I rewatched them, I would not feel that, because there is a way that they approach it. James Wan, especially the way he approaches it in the other films, where you don't feel like it's going in that direction. And now they're treating, like, they've ended up treating Jesus and crosses as superpowers and weapons, not in a fun Constantine way, just in a, I don't know, it feels weird. And the genre as a whole has this problem, I want to say, like possession films, but like, uh, you, in this film you're not really feeling anything related to faith. And by that, like, to elaborate very slightly, like, you watch The Exorcist, the original, you could be atheist, like, who cares, but you're watching a man of faith lose that faith and then regain it in order to save someone. Real or not, it's just a good story. It's like well written and it works. The first movie, same thing. The second movie also goes into a little crisis of faith element and all that. It works. In here, it doesn't. Just really, really badly written. I don't know if you feel how you feel about those
I
things.
agree. I mean, I think for one of the more unspoken sides of horror, and especially films like this, is how dangerous it can be in these films where you, and not The Conjuring, but the genre in general,
Mm.
when you validate Christianity, which sounds like a bad statement, but like,
But like in a
when you
bad way, not in a good
validate,
way.
no, but when you validate like the power of Jesus, or you validate that there's demons, like you are also validating for a lot of people in a lot of ways, depending how you read it, like some really horrible ideas, and some really horrible ideas, not just for communities who are living, but then you can also get like colonization. Again, this is not like on the mind of a lot of films, so I'm not trying to be like, you can't watch a movie with ghosts because then you are subscribing to colonization. That's not what I'm saying. But especially like a movie like Saint Maud, for example, I think that's a film that like rolls the dice and does it in a way that is so careless that it just doesn't think at all about like, what are you really validating here? With the fun twist, like I get like you can be, oh, I'm aware of this and this is not going to make me homophobic, but like, what are we really saying in this movie then? Like, I have an issue with that film. I have an issue with certain films
We
that
need to
does
do an
it.
episode on that later on, absolutely.
One
One
day,
day.
the movie that indirectly says, "Are gay people demon?" We're not going to say no. It's very funny though, but I think that is something that you just have to be careful about. And I agree. I think one is really careful about that. I don't have an issue with number three. I wouldn't say this is like the biggest issue. I wasn't sitting here like offended by the film, but it
Oh.
definitely plays a little bit awkwardly for certain.
Mhm.
Also, just again, very awkward. The war and stuff, it came off as awkward. I wouldn't say that ruins the film. I would say this movie, if I was sitting down with Warner Brothers, and granted, this is making a shit ton of money, so like I don't know if they want any notes on this, but I would say there's probably 20 issues I would present before we got to these things, as far as quality of film goes.
They
But
have bigger
definitely
issues.
it felt the ickiest out of all of them. I would agree. And it's just something I think in general we're losing some of that critical thinking, I want to say, with how we handle religion. And I think I would like to see a lot of people bring that more to the forefront. I think in general, I think people have kind of stopped worrying about what films are indirectly saying just to be like, but it's fun. And it's like, that's true. I think we can be a little bit more aware about certain things. And this genre is where that pops up for me the most as a queer individual.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I guess that would be my take on it. But yeah.
Yeah, but even the fact that this is based on, like, I don't know, I'm struggling on this, like on a personal level. I don't know when it's okay to go fully into fiction with real facts. Because I was thinking about this after watching this movie, especially. I was like, it feels so weird that, like, that families, like those kids, are younger than my parents. They're like 40 years old or something now, 50, let's say. They are all alive. I don't like imagine going to the movie theater and watching a film where you see like the possessed, like, minor spoilers of the end, like possessed girl walking around the house, forcing heart attacks on people, and shit's blowing up and mirrors are rotating, and it's completely insanity. Like, I didn't go too deep into like research on like what happened or didn't happen in this case. I bet you no one was actually vomiting glass, which feels way more dangerous than the way they present it in the movie. It just happens and then she's fine at the following scene. I was like, she should be in a hospital for like a year after. She should not be able to speak or eat or drink after
Yeah.
this. Like, so many of those things are happening, and I was thinking, it just feels slightly wrong now in a way that was
Yeah.
already a problem actually with the first film. I do remember when it came out, and I was rereading some articles about those things. Like, I want to, like, someone from the original family made a complaint about the movie
Oh.
misrepresenting reality. Other people also from the second movie were criticizing it about being like those, like, we're misrepresenting some of the real people, like, because there's like the British TV crew and skeptics and mediums, whatever, that appear in that, and they are misrepresented in the film compared to
Yeah.
reality and fact. So it's always a bit weird. And then I'm thinking like, okay, but that's because it's so close to us. Because then we can
Yeah.
make a movie about like a fucking western in the 1920s. No one cares. They're all dead.
Totally.
No one can defend themselves. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's such a bigger topic as well to talk about. Just
Well, I know number two is really interesting because the Warrens were not involved. They showed up and they were like, "Do you want to make money on this?" And they were like, "No." And then the Warrens like
they
left
pieced
London.
out.
Like there was no like the Warrens were not involved in that story. So that's probably the biggest jump here. I didn't know the complaint about number one. It's my understanding, reading kind of the tea leaves and reading what is out there, that the Warrens would go to these families. And again, I could be wrong. This is speculation. Do not sue me. That they would go to these families and be like, "Hey, what if we marketed this?" And then, like, for example, the family in this story were like, "Oh, we hate the attention, we just don't want this, but here's the book we're gonna sell and we're gonna make movies out of it." Like, they profited quite a bit off of this. I believe that is like the Warren scheme, is like, "Hey, we will give you the attention so you can write your book, we'll help you." They even like help write the book, and then we'll add you to the museum, and then like you can be this whole cultural icon, which I kind of like stan. I'm gonna be honest. I think that's so fun, creating more modern
Grifters.
mythology, because it's just like mythology. Like, it's stupid, but like I love how it's just like so blatantly dumb.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think it's a good conversation. I think that participant side of it, with those who actually like agree to participate with the Warrens, makes it to where I feel a little bit better about this. I think a lot about Stillwater, which is a weird movie to think a lot about, but like that movie is about a really, really recent situation about the girl who is studying abroad, whose best friend gets murdered, and she gets blamed for it, and she goes to prison. And that movie's like Matt Damon's gonna fly there and solve the case, and it's a really great movie. Except it's like really kind of horrifying with how it portrays this real case with everyone still living. It's like really recent, and it comes to an end. Minor spoilers for Stillwater, where it kind of is like, did she murder her best friend? And it's like, no, she didn't. That we know she did not. But it still opens that door, and I think that's really gross. I think on the spectrum, I would put that as very far as like, this is really uncomfy and it ruins the film for me, that this is all reality and you're playing around with real characters.
Yeah.
Sad for the kids. I mean, obviously, if any family member is part sees this and is disappointed or upset by it, very valid. But I also was like, I know these families participated to a degree with these Warrens. I don't think it is the biggest deal in the world for me, but I agree. I think as a concept, it's very interesting to wrestle with.
Yeah, it should not have pushed it as much as this film did in reminding you that these were real people, because there's something so effective in the way the first two movies, especially, and they do it again in the third one. It works a bit less so, but still, you're watching the movie and it's like based on a true story at first, and then you just like watch the whole movie the end credits start and it's just like the original tapes. And it's like, oh my god, the possession was real. You hear the voice of the old man coming out of the girl. It's like, sure, okay, that works, but you don't get walls of text reminding you like these were good people. They're still alive today. Yay! Thanks, Warrens.
I don't even think it's efficient as like a for the film series itself, because all that does is make you want to go look up more about these people, and then you're gonna find they're terrible people. Like,
Yeah.
just what we love these actors, we love these fictionalized versions of these characters. I don't think it does you any good to have people go look up their real life drama or their real life stuff, but I guess if that's what they want to do.
To me, they will always be Ed Warren playing Can't Help Falling in Love in the rain, watching him
Yes.
play and being like, oh, the aching longing, and I love him, but I don't want him to die. But we need to do something for the family. And just like, that's what I like.
Or
That's
just make
that's
it so
Warren's.
stupid. I remember there was one Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I don't remember which one, but they present it as like real footage from the crime scene at the end. I want to say it's at the very end of the film, or it might be the very beginning, but I think it's the very end. And they are like, "This is the real house where it really happened," and it has a jump scare in it where Leatherface jumps out, and it's like presented as being documented. It's so good, and it's like I make it dumb like that at least, to where it's like this is a true story, but no, it's just dumb fun. I agree, but also I don't think any of this film is fun. So like, I don't know. I guess
That's
it
the most
doesn't help.
frustrating part. There was never a moment where I could have dumb fun enjoyment. That was what set this apart from like Nun 2. Because if someone wanted to be very like, of course, Nun 2 is not a great film. No one's gonna remember it going down the line. But for what it is, it's okay. It's fluff, fun, just 90 minutes. Sure, why not? Just having some enjoyment at the cinema. With this one, I was not having. This is 2 hours and 15 minutes long. We have a forced intermission at my multiplex, and when it hit, I was like, "Oh, there's still like we're halfway through. There's another hour 10 left. Are you kidding?" It's sluggishly paced, which is shocking considering I want to say it's like as long as the original, maybe just slightly longer, maybe. Let me just double check very quickly. It's almost 20 minutes longer than the original. And you get even less time with the family and less time to get to know them. But you do spend all the time with Judy. Judy
And
who does
Devil
nothing.
number three was like a tight 2 hours. They were not going to go over 2 hours. So I don't know why they could not have kept that energy. Um, it's a brutal runtime. It's a brutal viewing experience. I mean, like, I genuinely, Jack was originally going to be on this episode, and he couldn't make a screening, and I was just like, I wouldn't recommend you go see it. Like, just don't go. It's not worth it in any way. I will say, getting into minor spoilers. So if you've not seen The Conjuring Last Rites and you
Let's
still
do it.
after this episode are like you want to watch this, maybe click off now or skip ahead. I love the ending when it's all the characters from the other films, and this film I think in general with its cameos. James Wan is in here. Like, I think that is the one area where there is a love for this franchise that does come through, and it's like they really got the actors from all the previous ones. I love that. That filled my heart. Maybe it's also just coming at the end of what I think is a pretty awful feature, but I was like, this is the one moment where I really loved it.
Oh, I teared up when I saw James Wan, you know? I was like, oh, there's Lily Taylor. I was like, who's the? I audibly gasped that people turned to look at me because, like, oh, it's the man. It's James. Is in this, and I instantly felt happy. I was like, oh well, we got to the end. You get to the cliched wedding. Everything's beautiful. Everything's dandy. But I like that they managed to get pretty much all of the key players. Like from the British family, you get the daughter and the mother. You get the cop, you get the assistant from the original. Like it's very cute. It is very very cute and nicely done. But like it's fan service, and as a fan, I was serviced.
Yeah.
But that's a good kind of fan service. It's not. We're in spoiler territory. It's not Annabelle once again appearing twice in the movie, and the second time she grows into that abomination, which made me go like, "Oh, this is made for all the people who always wanted Annabelle to move." One of the good
Yeah.
things about Hannibal is that she doesn't move, and the moment she started moving, I forgot to mention. Unfortunately, this is now behind the spoilers. This is one of very few times people left the cinema.
Wow.
It got halfway, like it got to the intermission, and they had three younger people, not teenagers, probably like 20-year-olds, let's say 21. And one of the guys was like, "This sucks. I'm going home." And the two
Wow.
girls were like, "No, come on, man. It's just another hour." It was like, "I'm done." And they stood up and just
Wow.
went to the door and waved at them. And after 2 minutes, they also left. The two girls.
Wow.
And I was like, "Wow, they're not coming back." They actually went halfway to the movie. They were like, "No, I spent like 20 euros on this. I'm no, I don't want to see it through." Which is very telling, I think. Like,
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see if this still makes a ton of money, like 1 or 2 weeks down the line. Because I remember, like, we were pretty positive, and we were recommending. I was recommending. We both were the third one when that came out. Like, yeah, it's not the same, but still good. Like, seek it out. It's a good film. I've not heard much positive about this. Like, the
No.
most I've read is like, it's okay. That's the most. Like, it's like 3 star, whatever nonsense. And if that's your best review you can get out of this movie, maybe someone who's like uber obsessed with these characters and is just happy to see them for 2 hours, I guess. I was hoping that would be us. Like, I went to the screening hoping
Right.
that it would be like, well, Carson and I are gonna like we're gonna be like, it's fun to see our mother and father once again on screen, just having
No,
a good time, killing
I'm
ghosts.
delusional. It could have worked, like it could have been enough. It really is a testament that we were both on here saying it's terrible because like we should have loved this.
We're in spoilers again. Like, I knew this was going to be sucky from the opening scene
Mm.
when it started, and they're saying it's June 1964, blah 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 blah. We are with this girl, and she's talking, and then the Warrens turn around. It's like, oh, it's the young Warrens. Like, yeah. And then 1964 appears in giant font on screen. I was like, yeah, you just said this is 1964. You just have to remind us also, like with text, just to be like, oh, in case you thought like they look very young. It's like, yeah, yeah, they're 22 years younger. Then you will see them later. It's just like, I don't know. It was very telling of how stupid the movie was going to treat the audience.
There's a lot of basic things in the opening. They really like this is such a minor nitpick, everyone. I'm not trying to claim that this is a big deal. But right before the title, which obviously always comes from the bottom, they have text just pop up and fade away. Why isn't that scroll like every other movie? It scrolls because obviously that is the basicness of this title. It's playing off Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We
Yep.
get it. Why didn't that happen? I was just so confused. Like from that point on, I was like, oh, they're just throwing this together like it's slop. And I love the fact that again, no one likes this movie. I saw one positive review and it popped up and it was the only thing I saw before your reaction. I was like, wait, is this going to be good? Because also all the posters and advertising are terrible for this. No, it's not good. But I love that whoever it was, someone involved was like, and at test screenings, it is getting reviews like it's getting 10 out of 10. Everyone is loving this movie, no notes. That's such a bullshit lie. Nobody was at a test screening saying this was good. I'm so sorry.
No one's giving it 10 out
Um,
of 10.
no, that's insane. Because literally, again, it's not one of those cases where like, oh, we don't like it, but the general public seem to love it. Nobody likes this movie. It did do good numbers. I agree. It's gonna die, I assume, next week. Box
Yeah.
office wise, it's a rough one. Like, and not to sugarcoat it, I don't think it's like the worst movie ever made, but I do think it's like one of the worst films in the Conjuring extended universe, certainly the worst Conjuring film, and it's one of the worst films of the year. Like, I really think it's not just like boring, it's like bad.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's
yeah, so
confusing.
sad.
It's poorly made to get like outside of like, and I'm usually not the guy to say those things, but like opening scene. Oh my god, there's a spooky mirror in the room, and Lorraine goes into the room, complete pitch darkness. She doesn't even attempt to turn on a light, and that is just from the other room. Like, you go, girl. I'm gonna stay back. It's like, why? Why are we doing this? So stupid. And again, I don't usually think about those things, but if in the first 5 minutes of the movie I'm thinking, why didn't she turn on the light? Why is she in the pitch black room? Why didn't she even try to turn on the light? Um, and like throughout the movie, you have little things like this. But even like there's one moment, like we both, I really love, the first time Lorraine gets into the house in the original, and the ghost in the reflection, da-da-dun, dun, 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 da-da-dun, like all those things, like, oh my god, it's cool. In this movie there's a scene where she goes into her trance. Just, I was like, what's happening here? Like, she's in one room, then she's in another room, but then she's outside talking with Ed. I was like, what happened here? She was like, she's walking around the house. I guess that's it. It wasn't like, I don't know, like like I think it was in the which is amazing, to be honest. Like the opening of the second one in Amityville, regard another cookie story of people making money of a tragedy, but like that opening is insane, where she's herself inside the, like she's picturing herself as the killer of the family. It's like, that's crazy. And in here, they don't do anything like that. They could have copied, like you're copying already the format of the first movie. Just copy and do something where, like, she finds herself with an axe and she's like killing the woman, and then she's like, "Oh, I've seen the tragedy that happened in this house, but those ghosts, they're just a facade for a greater evil." It's like, no, no, no.
Right.
She's just being like, "Oh my god, something's wrong. Red light, red light. Oh, I know what's happened."
Even the filmmaking in that second one, it is like it jumps around with her with the gun and like her going through these actions, but you always know what's happening. I agree, there are points in this movie where I have no idea what is happening. I have no idea where people are, what is going on. Like the filmmaking itself, it's sad. Again, I don't like, this is where I don't understand, because I don't think Chavez is that terrible of a director. I obviously he's
No.
not James Wan, but I think he's like competent enough to bring this into the second half of this franchise. I don't know why it just like he lost all ability here. I genuinely don't understand it. Nick,
Even
I
just
will say,
casting wise, small, like I couldn't
yeah,
distinguish the two sisters.
literally.
Because to the point I
They've
was like,
always
which
had good
one?
casting. Even in the extended universe, they've always had decent casting. I've always seen the vision. Some actors maybe didn't deliver, but like I've always seen the vision. Here
Yep.
it's just like they casted the first people who walk through the door. It's like it is genuinely crazy.
People who
Um,
can read, and that's it.
what I will say, Nick, is this is the end of the Warrens. Goodbye, Warrens. But thank God, everyone, hold on, because especially because now it made some money. The someone involved in production was like, guys, this is not the end of the Conjuring universe. This is the end of Phase One, which is a crazy statement to make. So I'm
Oh,
curious, Nick. I know this didn't deliver, but let's keep in mind Nun 2 was fun, apparently, right? We've had bright spots outside of the Warrens. Is there any excitement in your heart for phase 2 and the future of the Conjuring universe? What does it take? What should they do? What will it take for you to get back in on this series? If not, um,
oh,
are you at all excited?
not really. Like it feels like a threat when they say this is the end of phase one. I'm like, oh god, no! Like, what can you do? They can go in multiple directions. And again, I felt cynical watching this film. So the way I envision it might go, if they want to continue with Warrens but not Ed and Lorraine, they can have the adventures of the daughter, who, from what I know, like didn't really do much of anything about this nonsense. She just went like she's cashing the checks. Good for her, but that's kind of it. So maybe they can make up some adventures that she had. Alternatively, the more cynical side of me thought, oh, they're gonna do young Warren adventures. They didn't go de aging, which is what did in like Indiana Jones or whatever. They could have opened the door and have Chris Pine playing Indiana Jones. They didn't. They de aged Harrison Ford because he's iconic and you can't change him. In this film, they didn't de age Wilson and Farmiga. They went with new actors. No offense to them, they didn't leave any lasting impression. So I would not be like, yes, I love them though. I want to see like a 20 episode HBO show with them. I no, no. I honestly don't know where they could go. And I think they should not go anywhere. I think this should be the end of it. Like get the money from this series and invest it in new original projects. Because this was already hard to justify with the other spin-offs. And if they couldn't get the Crooked Man off the ground, which should have been an easy sell, even like as an animated horror film, whatever, just like make something up. It could work. What can they do? More nuns? More Annabelles? In my heart, Annabelle 3, Annabelle Comes Home. That's the true Conjuring 3. And Conjuring the Devil Made Me Do It is the last one, because that's like the spin-off. It still has Annabelle, it still has the Warrens, it has Judy doing her psychic nonsense, but it works. It's fun. It's a haunted house. It's like multiple ghosts, cool characters, cool things happening. It's like it's fun. That works. It's decent. It's a decent film. I don't know. What would you want out of a phase two? Like what's I'm trying to think. I can't think of a movie that would bring me back.
I mean, I would be there for the Crooked Man if it had someone good attached. Like, obviously, if James 1 comes back for anything, like, that would be a big selling point. I honestly feel like, again, I cannot stress enough, phase 1 was literally just like, James 1, make us 2 movies with a bunch of iconography, and then we'll just use that for like a decade. Literally,
Yeah.
also, I love that phase 1 is 12 years long. Like, I cannot wait for a decade of phase 2. Um, Outside of having someone like that who can add like that fire that you can just go off of for a decade, I really don't know what is here that I would want. Also, because again, I think the two good things have been the iconography from James 1 and the relationship between the Warrens, specifically because the two actors involved who said they're not coming back. I know they've said that they would like the prequel idea like they did for The Nun. But really, I mean, unless you get a really exciting voice and you can find that new person to lead this franchise, kind of what DC is doing with James Gunn, like, I'm just not that excited. I also am just like, I don't know. I don't think it's exciting as a shared universe. I'll be really honest. I've never cared about that concept in this series. I
Yeah.
agree. Like, we randomly got Annabelle 3, which really was weirdly great and like weirdly Conjuring. That was a bright spot. But like, outside of that, I've never cared about these series. I don't think it's that interesting of an idea. I agree. I don't want any more. I really don't. I'll be there, I assume, maybe, if it's good. I have no interest in it, though. I agree.
Conjuring is the Warrens. And if you
Yeah.
don't have them, like, where do you go? It's not like you have the established universe of, like, in Marvel or whatever, or even the John Wick series, which is another series I think should not
Yeah.
keep going on. You're watching John Wick for John Wick. I don't care about other characters, and you can stretch it to infinitum. Like, it needs to end. And I think this is they. I don't know if they did it tongue in cheek or not, because I like we love James Wan as a director. I don't think he's that good of a producer in the sense of like the
No.
movie he ends up producing. If you see that resume, like you can tell like which ones are
Yeah.
good, and it's usually the ones he directed. Everything else, it's like crap. Like, oh, he made Lights Out, Mortal Kombat, Insidious Chapter 3, Salem's Lot. Like all those films, like what the fuck? There's someone inside your house? What? That's also like an early ClapperCast episode. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know
I also
what they.
like with one. I agree. I don't think like if one's name is attached as anything but director, I could not care less. I
It's like Sam
agree.
Raimi.
Like,
It's another one who's
he
like, I
is.
love his movies as a
Yes.
director, but as a producer, he says it's oh sure. Steven Spielberg produced. It's like, who cares?
This is gonna get slightly triggering for me almost, but like, he is also supposedly involved in whatever is gonna come next for the Saw franchise. He is busy there, um, which is gonna be a full on terrible. I guarantee you it's going to be the worst thing in the world. I guarantee you I'm going to like probably cry. But he's involved in that disaster already. I don't think he is ready to like lead this series on. I don't think there's any voice that's been proven to. I think just let horror franchises die. Let Saw die. Let this die. We do not need more. We do not need just keep these things going. It's like the worst thing about horror. And it felt like we were getting done. It felt like we were done with these franchises. We're moving into new stuff. And then, like, just recently, specifically like Saw X, Final Destination Bloodlines, we got really good versions of these series coming back. And then they're like, wait a minute, what if we just make another Conjuring? And now it's like the worst version of that. Like, the slop has started to come after these really inspired efforts. I don't need another Final Destination, even though Bloodlines is incredible. I
Yep,
don't need
yep.
another one of those. I don't need another I Know What You Did Last Summer, or I Know What You
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
Last
yeah.
Summer. I just don't need I don't need another Anaconda film. Sorry, Jack Black. I just don't need
Is that
these
true? Is
franchises
that a
coming
real
back. Oh,
project?
this Christmas it releases. Jack Black and Paul Rudd. Keep up.
You're not kidding? Are you serious?
No, we'll do it on. We're doing it on the
Oh my god,
podcast.
this is the first time I've heard of it. What the
No,
hell?
we're doing at least the original on the podcast because that shit's wild. But like, I just don't need these franchises coming back, and I think it's sad that we're back in this era that it felt like we escaped from. But the demon is still here. We did not exercise it well enough to where we're just going to continue to push these out. I don't like it, but
I still can't believe
what
there's
can we
an
do?
Anaconda 2025 actually coming out. I thought
On
you were
Christmas
kidding. I
Day.
just fuck me. Why?
No, it's crazy. It's actually crazy.
Oh, okay.
No comment. um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't
So
I don't know. This has always been an obsession, just because it's it's the constant reminder that regardless of how we want to talk about movies, they will forever be just like a capitalist venture for studios. So even
Yeah,
like recently, I know you weren't a fan of it, but I really liked Weapons, and I
for sure.
hate that the first thing people said, some people said, wasn't, "Oh, I want to see what Zach Gregors does next." It was, "Oh, but like a prequel on The Witch, or like a sequel. Where could that be? Or maybe it's like an
Mhm.
anthology series." Like, no, stop,
Talk to Me also.
stop.
I don't know why
Just
Talk to Me came out, and even the directors on that one are like, "No, we're gonna make a prequel film, or we're gonna make a sequel, and we're doing all like, no, just let it
sure.
die. Like you did one, that's great." I feel like you especially, like when you, I guess this is gonna be kind of dark, but like you've seen a lot of your babies. The Conjuring, you have this emotional relationship with. John Wick is obviously very high on your list. Like
Cities.
you've seen recently these projects and these franchises that have been like excellent. They've had like an excellent build, and then just now go in the direction they're going in. Like that must be really depressing.
It feels grim because it's something we've seen from like generations past, and it's happening again. Like, we grow up and you hear about the Star Wars. Like, we didn't until the new trilogy came out. Like, it was always something I just took for granted, the six Star Wars films. Well, for someone else, that was what was happening. You get the Christmas special, you get the prequels. Like, oh stop, we don't want more of that. And to be experiencing it firsthand with series I grew up with, ended up loving for the past decade or so, it feels rough, especially because you can tell that the people who truly care about them also want it to end. Like, there's, you mentioned John Wick, not to go on a rant about that, but even in the documentary, I loved that one of the final lines that Keanu says. The documentary, Wiki's Pain, I think is the title. Very good doc. 2 hours captures the entire making of the series. It's just very sharply made. Um, One of the last things is like Keanu Reeves saying, "Hey, I had a John Wick decade in my 50s, and just that's amazing, and I'm happy with that. Let's go on." And it like watching, getting to the end of The Conjuring, I felt similar. I was like, oh yeah, like Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga in their late 40s, they had a Conjuring decade. They reinvigorated their. Did they reinvigorate their careers? I don't think it did much for their careers, which feels weird. Like, I think they're at the same levels in place they were before, especially Vera Farmiga. Patrick Wilson, I've seen plenty of. I've not seen much of Vera Farmiga, and I think she is really underrated. Like, the last movie I've seen her in, I can genuinely think about that's not Conjuring. It's probably The Commuter, the Liam Neeson film. Probably. Like, I can't think of any other movie I've seen her in. That's not a Conjuring spin-off. So it's a bit of a shame, but also studios will always be greedy. But also, just to end this part on a positive note, the originals will still always be there. Like, I know all the people who hate Texas Chainsaw, and you mentioned Saw. Like, some of the later ones are not great. Like, you will always have the good ones. Like, the moment a good movie comes out, like, you just learn to skip the bad ones, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, I will be there in the trenches with Saw very shortly. I know it's coming, but those originals do exist, absolutely, and we do get little moments. Like forever, as a Saw fan, we will have Saw X as the goodbye to John Kramer. Like no matter what, we have those beautiful moments. I think that kind of beautifully transitions us away from Conjuring Last Rites. So if you want to see that film, it's in theaters. I wouldn't recommend. I genuinely would not say go see it. I would say avoid it. But it is on. It is in theaters. If you need one more Conjuring hit, I guess. Last time you can see them supposedly in theaters. So go check it out. I guess if you really want. For today's question of the week, we're asking what is your favorite horror franchise? Kind of however you want to define that. What is the franchise that really hits you in a certain way? I will say I think mine's pretty obvious. I love Saw. It's not even because like it's that good. It's not even like, oh my God, what an emotional reaction I get to a lot of them. It's just so fucking fun. It really is. Just like the most fun horror franchise where even the bad ones, you have this campy lore, this campy narrative throughout.
It's
It
a
builds and
soap
builds and builds.
opera.
Saw 3D, exactly. Saw 3D is like terrible, but it also is one of the most fun experiences you can have watching because it's all fan service. And if you've just gone along for this ride for like 8 films, it is just paying off everything in the most like dumb way possible. But I mean that in the best of ways. And then you randomly get Saw X, which is like this gorgeous, beautiful tribute to John Kramer. And I think that film's like genuinely good. It's really, really unlike anything else. Like it's a franchise that should have been cut off at like number 5. To see this thing play out how it did is really quite remarkable. There are some bad ones in there, don't get me wrong, but I really, really love Saw. It really, like, I don't know why. It really hit me in a way that I really appreciate.
Can you think that if things went differently, today we might have been talking, or like next month we could have been talking about Saw 11? That still stings.
Yeah, no, it really stings. Like, it actually feels like you pulled out a gun and shot me in the face right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Like, no, I agree. It's crazy. There's a lot I could say about that and the writers and produce. A lot of stuff you can say. It's insane that we're not getting a Saw 11 at all, but especially right now, I agree. After Saw 10, I remember sitting on that podcast. I don't remember if you were there. I know Jack was there. And I just remember sitting there being like, guys, this means we're getting Saw 11 and it's going to be good. Like, finally, like, it's just confirmed. Like, we're doing it and we're not doing it. And that's tragic. Nick, what would you say is your favorite horror franchise?
It wasn't easy to just like pick one. I apologize for the classic Nick answer. But like in terms of nostalgia, Evil Dead 100%. Like that was my first horror series. Growing up, I watched them in reverse order. Watched Army of Darkness, then Evil Dead 2, and then the original Evil Dead when I was 11, 12. And they were very foundational in my growing up. It's just getting more acquainted and more intrigued with horror and just starting to enjoy it more and more, because I was a scaredy pants as a kid. But I did secretly really like it. I was just too afraid to watch it. And something like Evil Dead, I think, is a great introduction because it's gory enough, but not too serious, especially the second and third one, of course, where you can watch them and enjoy them and then delve deeper. And then, of course, as I mentioned, I saw the remake in the cinemas, first ever horror film. I brought my poor mom because I couldn't go by myself to watch it with me. She spent half of the movie just covering her eyes, bless her. And then 12 years later, we went to watch Conjuring 4 together. It's like a tradition at this point with those series.
Did she like it?
She did, actually.
Wow.
She did. We went out and she was like, this was a good film. I was like, I'm so happy for you. Bless you, mom. Otherwise, Halloween, just there's something about Halloween that I do love the original, and just sporadically there are very good movies in that series. And as a whole, there's something about just trying to milk one character out of a series that for me Halloween really works. Maybe it's the John Carpenter effect, something that like I don't care about Friday the 13th. I've not seen enough of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies to have an opinion on it. I've seen very few of the sequels. Only the first 3, I believe, actually. But Halloween is fun. But probably, honestly, gun to my head, you say, Nick, only one series. Come on, please. Child's Play. Love Child's Play. Just like I didn't think I would end up loving it as much as I did when I started watching it. And then you get to the late ones. Don Mancini. It's like, what's he doing here? This queer campiness, like proper actual campiness, honest to god fun. What's John Waters doing here? And then you get to the TV show and it's on a whole other level and it's just joyful. Like, it's so cheap, which makes me so upset, because it could be like, imagine Child's Play with a Conjuring budget. Just like insanity instead of trying to find quick cheap ways of cutting around some things and clever ways to lessen the budget. I'm still very upset that they canceled that show. I do know that Don Mancini is actively working to find a way to finish it, whether it's a TV show again, final season, final movie or something. I hope they manage to do it, because I still forget if you've seen the show or not. You have.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
The way the final season ends, it's like you want to like throw your laptop out of the. It's like, what? I want to watch it. Like, I want it now, and probably we won't ever see it. It sucks. Absolutely sucks. But I do really, really like Child's Play. And I think it's one of the most, in a genre, like in terms of franchises often don't really push the envelope in very interesting ways, and they don't really know how to
Mm.
reinvent themselves in interesting ways, because even the ones that we mentioned, like Saw X, is doing the same Saw thing that he was doing
Yep.
before, just better. Final Destination, same. But Child's Play has genuinely evolved over
Oh yeah.
30, 40 years. So it'd be a shame for it to die like that.
It's definitely my number two option. Like, and it's interesting because when I was a kid, I really hated horror, specifically because my big sister would like torment me with horror, and specifically Chucky. Chucky was genuinely like I would have panic attacks because
Oh
she
no.
scared me so bad. And we went through a Chucky haunted house at Universal Studios, and it was like fucking traumatizing. I was forced to go. It was genuinely like trauma, like not in a funny way. Like it was genuinely trauma for little
Oh god.
Carson. So it's so interesting when I finally watched the Child's Play franchise, and you get through the first few, which are pretty effective as far as horror movies, and it definitely like is still jumpy, that first one. But then you just end up at this like queer oasis that is like you would never expect it, but it's so good. And watching that for the first time genuinely was like this weirdly emotional moment of like confronting this iconography and then finding queerness, find it was so weird. And then yeah, you get reinvention with the direct to video DVD ones, and then the series, which is like it's really fun. It's so disappointing they canceled it. But the one thing I will say is Child's Play has always survived. No matter what, it has gone through evolution, it's changed, and everyone involved. It's one of the best examples of like horror being like a family where everyone involved just loves it and they will do whatever it takes. They will do whatever genre, they'll do whatever release strategy just to make more of it.
Just
So
like
I
Chucky
hope
himself. Keeps
exactly.
coming back.
So I have hope, I'll even say I have some faith that like we will see this story play out. We will get more Chucky. I certainly hope so because what I agree. I mean, it would literally be traumatic if that's the way it goes out. Like that would be horrible. Even the remake though, which the remake betrays everything. Like fuck that movie behind the scenes. Even that is like so fun. Like I don't know, there's just something about it where like
Yeah.
this franchise gets it, and I would really like if no one's seen it, watch the series, please. I recommend you watch the show, watch the movies. You just because there's so much different genres throughout, you will definitely have to sit through at least one or two probably movies or seasons or whatever that doesn't really connect with you. I think especially the direct to video stuff maybe I probably is the lesser for me, but still like would
It's
highly
very
recommend.
cheap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
um it's fantastic. So I agree. That would definitely be my second choice. With that, let's go to our rapid reviews. Anything we've seen recently that we haven't discussed on the podcast. I will get through my list quickly. I'm only going to talk about the new releases I've seen, and I'm going to go quick. Watch Caught Stealing, the new Aronofsky film. So much better than The Whale, I'm happy to report. Very, very fun. Very Austin Butler here is genuinely fantastic. It is criminal that he just keeps getting these like supporting roles, often behind really heavy makeup. Like I'm thinking specifically Dune 2, because between this and Elvis, like no, he's really one of our most charismatic, our most well-rounded lead actors. I think he's just phenomenal.
And Bike Riders.
That's true. Bike Rider C is incredible in there. Add that to the list completely. The Roses was complete fun. I've never seen the original. I need to probably. I didn't know what to expect from this, and I just had a lot of fun. Olivia Colman and Cumberbatch both are fantastic. It goes places. As a huge Julia Child fan, I grew up like worshiping Julia Child and Julia and Julia. There's a bit in here where I was like, oh my god. I think the one issue is like and maybe it's just who I am. I'm fully on Olivia Colman's side in this. I'm like, fuck Benedict Cumberbatch, that dirty fucker. Like I hate him. Fuck him. She should get everything. She should get the house. She should get the kids. She should get everything. But I really love The Roses. It was like a surprise, a big surprise. I watched Megadoc, the documentary about the making of Megalopolis. It's wild. I won't say too much because Nick, I want you to not have too many expectations. It like we just talked about One from the Heart. I'm very deep into Francis Ford Coppola right now and getting into his mindset. This just explains it all. I completely get why he goes ups and downs in his career. It's one of the wildest looks at like on-set tension that he creates. Him and Shia LaBeouf just hate each other. And it's one of the most fascinating things to see as it progresses. Because at first, Shia LaBeouf is like, yeah, he's just such an artist and it's so great to work with him. And by the end of set, he's like, he has the camera and he's just like, film this. And he's like, I hate him. He's horrible. And it's like wild. It is a wild film to see, but like it makes so much sense. And it makes me want to revisit Megalopolis, which we do have to do eventually. Twinless, I didn't like. I don't like the director. I don't really want to get too into it. I just think James Sweeney is like a terrible writer. Pepe, the film about the hippo you saw last year at Berlin, I want to say.
Yeah.
It's so slow. Like, it really is hard to sit through almost at times. But I'm so frustrated that so many people, yes, I know it's slow, went to the theater to see this and sat through the entire film and just were like, I'm not going to engage with this. This is such a weirdly like poignant look at colonization and feeling like an outsider and forced displacement that I think has so much relevance. And it's such an interesting take on that. And it's so frustrating that just people were like, it's a silly hippo movie. It was boring. It's like, no, how does that your takeaway? I don't know. I was really mad about that.
Going for the meme movie and you get Pepe. It's like,
exactly.
Oh, no.
I saw The Long Walk. I won't say much because it's not out yet. Really gruesome for being Francis Lawrence. I thought this was going to be really stripped down, similar to what he did to The Hunger Games, where he makes it really cheap and really clean. But no, this is really gruesome. I think we're going to have a conversation on Anatomy of an Adaptation, so I don't want to get too into it. But I will say, it's not my favorite film in the world. I think a lot of the issues probably stem from the book, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And then finally, for the first time on the big screen in 3D, I saw Jaws. They're playing it in 3D this week.
Wow.
And I will say, transcendent experience. Like, truly, in a way. And I think especially on the big screen, just so many of the bits of filmmaking you have to appreciate in some of the shots. And the 3D scan was gorgeous. But it really was like, no, movies are incredible. The theatrical experience is actually that good. With so many new releases, even the good ones, it can be easy to like just be like, oh, I could have watched The Roses on VOD, or like, I don't know about the theatrical experience. Watching Jaws for the first time, I don't know if you've ever seen it on the big screen. It like, I got goosebumps. I was like, this is cinema. It really is. The acting is so good. The screenplay is so good. The directing and the filmmaking is so good. Like, it just is so good to where it's easily one of the best films ever made, obviously. But like, they just don't make movies like this anymore. And it's really sad because when you watch movies like Jaws, you're just like, oh no, like it really is that next level that we just rarely hit anymore. But it was fantastic.
I've not seen Jaws in 20 years. Since I got into movies, I've not rewatched Jaws, and I'm saving it. Really? I would love to watch it on the big screen. Like, that's what I'm saving it for. I want to do a special episode on Anatomy of an Adaptation with the good Yahoo as well. I know he loves the film, wants to talk about the book, so
it's
I'm
a good
trying
book,
to save
too.
it. It's just, we don't get much repertory screenings here. I'm hoping next time I'm in Berlin, hopefully they're showing it somewhere.
We never do. We never did, I guess I should say. But this year, for some reason, we've started to get more of them. Like, they're putting Apollo 13 back in theaters, which is super random, but I'm like, oh, that's kind of fun. They're putting Avatar: Way of Water back in, which, like, I will be there, of course. But I was so excited for Jaws. Like, I have just never seen it. I was like, oh, wow, what a perfect opportunity.
There's something in the air where more people actually want to go to repertory screens.
Oh, yeah.
Like, outside of the big, like, who cares about Harry Potter again on the big screen? But like, we went to watch Nobody 2 in the cinema. Opening weekend. There was literally 2 other people in the screening room. And then we left, and there was a full house for Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh, yeah.
That had, like, Howl's Moving Castle had more people than I mean, who cares about Nobody? But, like, it's great. People want to watch classics on the big screen and maybe discover them. Like, I know people who go like, I've never seen this movie ever. Might as well watch it in the cinema. And they do, and it's great, of course. Like, I think it's amazing. There's something in the general non-cinephile sphere. It feels like it's 100%. Happening, which is...
For the Labor Day weekend, 2025 in the US, holiday weekend, which is normally a pretty big box office weekend, Jaws was number 2 at our box office, and it's not far from number 1. Granted, there's not a lot of new films that are big coming out right now. Like, I will admit, it had an easier box office than most years, but like, there's something beautiful about that. And every single time they put an older film out, whether it was Titanic, which I got to see on the big screen last year, whether it's when they released the original Avatar before The Way of Water, those screenings are always the ones that are packed. And normally for new releases. In where I live, it's just like dead. There's literally like three people, maybe max. It's so weird because then you go up to LA and it's full every single screening, and it's like, wow, this is kind of crazy. Like I kind of wish that this was my experience.
Mm.
But for the older screenings, it's always full. It's always really well represented. So I agree, and I think that's beautiful. I think it's a sign of like there is clearly some itch that Hollywood right now is not scratching, and I think that's worthy for examination. But I do think it's just a beautiful idea that these older films get releases, and I'm happy that it's getting more and more of them to be released. Because they are wonderful. It's just what a joy to go to the cinema, and especially for something you've seen before but only at home, to see it like how it should be seen. I think is lovely. What have you been watching recently, though?
I've also been a lot to the cinema, but first of all, I did watch to also catch up on a conversation that was had on the Patreon of this podcast. I did watch Totally Fucked Up by Greg Araki and the Doom Generation before watching The Living End, or like after watching The Living End, which just like I've become a Greg Araki fan. My first one was Mysterious Skin last year. I want to say I watched it like last February 2024. And now I finally caught up with those four movies, and they are great. They are great. Like a whole other level of DIY, low budget filmmaking, queer as hell, angry as hell, punk, fun. I don't know. There's you talked about it with Jakub, and I recommend people go listen to that episode. I thought it was excellent, truly good, lovely conversation. And I'm a Greg Araki stan. I want to watch more of his movies now, like finish his entire filmography. Um, on a family night, I was forced to watch The Thursday Murder Club on opening day on Netflix. No, just no. I did watch The Roses as well. I enjoyed it. I had caught up with the original like a week prior to it. I had not seen that ever. I do prefer the original, even though I found it to be a bit flawed in multiple ways narratively. I just found with the remake, like reimagining rather, um, just kind of felt slightly pointless by the end of it. Like, what is the point they're trying to make? In a way that feels too slavish to the original, because the original has this cautionary tale fable vibe to it, and it's like, oh, don't do this, people, because oh, you don't want to end up like the Roses. That's the whole premise of the film. It's like being told by the Danny DeVito lawyer. It's like, I remember this couple fucking crazy bastards. Here's what happened. And it's very heightened. The new one doesn't have that framing device. It doesn't have any of like a cautionary tale feeling to it. All of the side characters kind of suck. They're like, I Kate McKinnon comes dangerously close to ruining the movie. Dangerously close. Where it's like, you're pushing it, you're pushing my buttons. And I don't dislike her, but just I don't know. But it is enjoyable. Like, it was fun. Like, I left the screening room just with a smile on my face, which is always nice. Um I did watch The Watermelon Woman. Finally, finally, we're canceling movie, so I'm trying to catch up on movie films now. And I was like, oh fuck yeah, Watermelon Woman. That's as it is indeed as good as people have said. Um, Way more experimentally formal than a formal experimental, maybe, than I was expecting. Like, just goes in weird directions with its style, like this docudrama approach that has a bit of a twist at the end. Just very clever stuff. And just today, because it was a Sunday, we're recording on a Sunday, I did have some time. I went to a matinee screening of recently released Materialists, which came out like 2 months ago or something in the States. I did really like it. Not as much as Past Lives. I loved Past Lives. I didn't love this one. I think it's just a very messy script. It's a bit too obvious in some parts. They've been very obvious in others, in just beating you over the head with the message of the film. And it gets a bit too cute at the ending. But I think Celine Song captures something very real about dating in the modern world, and how obsessed we are with people's values, whether they are literal values, economic values, or like, oh, how much value you can give to my life. But it's always going back to money in one way or another. I think she touches on a lot of interesting things there. But so I did like it. I thought it was a very good film. And also, I did watch one movie I know you didn't like. I watched Occupied City. I've been watching it over the weekend because I had a lot of like work to do that required me to just wait around for things to upload. And so I was like, also on Mubi, 4 hours and 20 minutes of Occupied City, no other, like, might as well do it, and I watched it in three chunks. I found it to be great, like better than I thought it would be. And it's a type of movie I wish I could have seen in the cinema, because this is like peak festival screening where like you spend an entire afternoon just like watching one documentary. You fall in and out of sleep, it's just the camera is moving around, people are talking, it's quiet. But I don't know, I found it to be very profound, very complex, and just astonishing in the way they put it together. Like, I cannot imagine the amount of work also in just getting all of this footage, assembling it. I did not know Steve McQueen was married to the writer of the book this is based on. And she also directed a documentary I've heard very good things about, called 3 Minutes a Lengthening. Well, something, it's 3 minutes something, where basically there's like 3 minutes of footage, I believe, of like an Holocaust event, maybe also in Amsterdam actually. Um, and she just makes an entire documentary around those 3 minutes and the people in there, and just like making you watch the same footage over and over in interesting ways. So I want to watch that as well. Let me just double check. 3 minutes a lengthening, yeah, indeed, an hour and 9 minutes. So Bianca Stigta, wife of Steve McQueen. The more you know. That's it. I'm curious
Yeah.
what the future will bring, because September is shaping up to be a good month for movies. Maybe lots coming out,
Yeah, it is.
much
I mean,
coming
we should
out.
be in a few good months here, hopefully. Also, Occupy City, just because it's really relevant to what we talked about today, I think that's a prime example of a film that is not in, validating Christianity through demon possession, but it's a film where I don't think it's being very thoughtful about certain things it's putting in conversation, where it's like showing COVID lockdown with Nazi regime it's a choice. I know there's more to it. I don't think he's a Nazi, or I don't think he's saying COVID lockdowns are equivalent to Nazi takeover, but you're giving a film that, for being that long, to not really clarify, it's a choice, but alas.
It's like the situation in Amsterdam was very rough, and
Sure.
basically it's showing, it's less so. I don't want to go on a tangent on Occupied City, so I apologize for the listeners who are gonna, they're like, what the fuck is Occupied City about? Um, but that's something you're not the only one. There's like a couple other people that I follow that did say that when the movie came out, that also put me off of watching it. But it is actually showing less of like comparing just the Nazi regime with the COVID lockdown, but more so how Amsterdam specifically and the Netherlands were very rigid in their curfews, and the people protested that because it
Yeah.
was actually stopping their freedom in very clear, dangerous ways. And they, like, the government brought out the police and fire hoses and just spraying people around, and it's dark. Like, there's moments where people are chanting like stop fascism now. There's Palestinian protests happening
Yeah.
for a movie. Like, of course they've been going on for a long time, but even watching it now, it's like, oh shit, 2021 footage of people having Palestine protests in Amsterdam. I don't know. I found it to be very moving, actually, in the way it approached a different form of resistance in the
Yeah.
modern day. And also just the idea, which is something I've thought about so many times, is like there's some shots that are like teenagers doing TikToks in front of a building, and the voiceover is like, oh, here is where like this family of Jewish individuals who were hiding out from the Nazis were, like Anne Frank, for instance, or whoever. That's like similar stories. They were
Yeah.
snitched on by someone else, and they were shot dead in the plaza just nearby. And you're seeing those two girls like doing duck faces and whatnot to, I don't know, songs popular at the time. It's yeah, I think I said in the review something like the ghosts of the past are felt in the present, but the
Mm.
projected present has already become a ghost in a way. Like,
Mm.
watching it now, it already feels more distant to watch like the pandemic and lockdown. It's like, oh my god, it's been 3 4 years from that, 5 years even
Yeah.
in some cases. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't know if but objectively speaking, it is too long, and it's not a movie you can recommend. Hey,
Yeah.
date night, we just watched 4.5 hours of
Would you
Occupied
say
City.
Would you say you have to be in a certain mood to watch something like Occupied City and probably like need a bit of time to get through it? Would you say that's fair to
Oh
say?
yeah, 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 more than fair. More
Well,
than
shout
fair.
out A24. Last thing I'll say before, I don't want to spoil our full episode coming on Occupied City, I'm sure. The last thing I'll say is if anyone wants to see how A24 is during awards season with shouting out and giving access to their films, they randomly sent out Occupied City and said you have 24 hours to watch this, and then the link dies randomly one morning. How great.
That's also a threat.
So
Is that like
anyone
a
who
new
wanted to
Stephen
watch
King
it,
story, right? Like you have to watch Occupied City in 24 hours or you die.
yeah, and it's like
Like,
4
but I
hours
have a
long.
life. A24, I have a life, I
So
have work.
if anyone wants to see, why doesn't A24 do a better job? Like, why don't more of their films get screened or get supported during award seasons? Just take that story and apply it to anything else you want. Pretty fun.
Just too much. Too much A24. Every movie is A24. I go to the cinema, 5
Oh my
trailers for
god.
A24. The movie I'm watching is A24. Festivals of A24.
You
just
can't
slow
escape
down.
A24.
No.
That's good. Well, I think with that's going to do it for our Conjuring Last Rites review. Nick, today was a big day. I was worried about this episode going into it. I think I even said in multiple episodes, like, oh, I'm dreading that one. But I think we made it through okay. And forever, we can put this away into our Oculate Museum. This will be our little haunted item in the corner of ClapperCast in our back room. And we won't ever have to deal with it again, hopefully.
I
Until,
hope.
of course,
Oh,
phase
but
two.
evil always finds a way. Evil always
Evil finds
finds
a
a way.
way. Phase 2 incoming. Get ready for the episodes. And also our start to Road to Halloween. So we're officially on the road to Halloween. Plenty of good horror content and reviews for new releases, old releases coming out over the next couple of months. But with that, let's leave you there. Nick, where can we find your work online?
You can find me pretty much everywhere at Nkigoro97, Letterboxd, Instagram. Also, you can follow my other podcast where Carson has been a guest, will probably be a guest again in the future, called Anatomy of an Adaptation on Instagram, Spotify, Apple, and also YouTube. So check that out if you like books and film adaptations. We're gonna do Occupied City next time.
It's going to
Just
be
read 700 pages of the history of Amsterdam occupied by Nazis. Fun.
I will if anyone's going to Amsterdam and like really wants to like have a tour of the city where like you'll understand the city in a different way. I'd recommend it. It is like fascinating
Totally,
in
yeah.
that regard for sure. You can find me on Blue Sky and Letterboxd, just Carson Timar, and then obviously the podcast you can find every few weeks anywhere you can get podcasts. I would recommend our Patreon. I will put one more plug out there because you mentioned our review for Greg Araki's film. We have been not to like brag and not to like push too hard. I think we've been killing it on the Patreon. Our One from the Heart episode was really, really good. We've been like just doing some really fascinating, strong cinema. Road to Halloween, we're going to have a couple episodes on there also. So like just some good stuff coming. So I'd highly recommend anyone just subscribe to the Patreon. That'd be my recommendation. But even if not, we're here on your normal feeds also. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.